Bodie here is next in line to be the village guard. You're late!
Sorry, Dad.
Rock Dog tells the story of a Tibetan mastiff named Bodhi who grew up in a village at the foot of the Himalayas. Born to be a guard, he became interested in rock music and begins to pursue his dream.
Dad says stop. Don't stop.
Different from traditional animations, this film incorporates China's rock and roll elements as well as Tibetan culture. It is based on the popular Chinese graphic novel Tibetan Rock Dog, written and illustrated by Zheng Jun, who was also one of China's first major rock stars in the mid-1990s. Although it had originated in China, the film was directed by Ash Brannon, who co-directed Pixar's smash hit Toy Story 2 in 1999, animated by Real FX, an award-winning American digital studio. Its English version is dubbed by a number of Hollywood veterans, including Oscar-winning actor J.K. Simmons. While some say animation has long been seen as a weak point in China's film industry in the face of fierce competition from Hollywood, others say the contents based on Chinese culture would help raise worldwide curiosity.
Dad, if you could feel what I'm feeling, it's the answer to the question of my life.
Rock Dog is considered as an unprecedented experiment which might well provide a new path for China's fast-growing movie industry.
Come on in, mate. Don't step on the welcome mat and don't touch the door. It's electrified.
It's music, which I myself...
Are you a rock and roll guy?
Not exactly, but I like music.
And your
I
generation...
played guitar when I was at school.
Oh, you were? Okay. How were you?
It's okay. I would say that I didn't use it to, like...
Enough to attract the eyeballs, right?
But I didn't use that to attract my girlfriend back
But
then.
anyway, that was the generation when Chinese rock and roll just started, isn't it? Back in the 1980s.
Yeah, definitely. But I would say that, music, especially rock and roll, in Tibet is another thing, and dog. Putting these things together, I think it's a very good story.
As an angel investor, you're quite well known here in China. But I understand this is your first time to invest in a movie. Why? What you have learned through this zigzagging journey?
Chinese, box office has grown a lot in the last 10 years, I'd say, after I came back to China. But there's one exception, which is animation movie. Right? There are a lot of animation movie lovers in China, but if you look at the dominant animation movies in China, is Hollywood movie. So how come the Chinese, for example, feature film has grown a lot? But if you look at the box office, right, the Chinese-made animation movie is such a small fraction of it. So that's actually made me thinking, what's the problem for film?
So you want to do an experiment?
I think as an investor, I realized at that time, very high risk. But because I use my own money, and I feel this is something that for fun, right?
Right.
So, and I also developed we did actually some market research about, this is a small budget animation movie, right? What is the potential return? And how much money we're gonna spend to have this pre-production, production, where we're gonna get this money, right? And we found out, yes, the risk is high, but still there's a chance to make this happen. On the other side, I really, really love doing experiment. As an angel investor or as a VC, right, we do, I'm an early stage venture capitalist. So we try to do something nobody has done. So this is definitely the thing that nobody has tried before, which is making a animation movie that target the global market, not just the China market.
Why did it take 6 years?
We spent probably, I would say, 3 years in Hollywood, try to find the right production team, which includes, for example, the writer, the director, and a lot of different, like the production, the whole production team as well.
How did you find them? Because this is really the first time that we're talking about. Yeah.
We actually, initially, we don't know where to get them. So we, find the first few people through, I would say that our friends there, and they are on the A list of writers and directors. We thought, okay, since they're on the A list, which is the top tier, right? Writers and directors, they must be good. After we wrote the first script, we found out, okay, doesn't look like this is the right team.
How come not?
Actually, at the end, we found out part of the problem is ourselves, right? For example, Zhangao, the Tibetan dog, in China, people feel that one of the characteristics of Zhangao is loyalty, loyal to the family, loyal to the people, right? But in U.S., when you try to translate it into the value system that applies to the whole world, the world market we're talking about, right? Loyalty is not necessarily loyal to your master, right? It's more loyal to, I would say, truth, right? So, for example, there's a Chinese character, Sun Wukong, Chinese.
The Monkey King.
Monkey King, right? He actually has very strong loyalty to his master, right, Tang Seng. But in Hollywood, when a Chinese writer tried to get it modified in Hollywood, he ran into the huge problem because the Hollywood writer couldn't understand why. Even if his master, he knows his master made such a mistake, right? He has to basically show his loyalty to his master. And that's definitely wrong in the Western world. So how do you make it a movie that can apply to the whole world? So we have to change a little bit. Like the Hollywood animation movie talk about love, different type of love, right? Like the parent love the children and animals. It has the same thing, right? And also talk about the growth, right? And also you have to add a lot of humor into it, which wasn't in the original book. So that's why we changed and we let them understand what is a Tibetan culture. We need to have the writers wrote those Tibetan culture, embedded into the movie, right? But on the other side, we also need to understand, okay, this is, we need to change.
Did you regret that you haven't got the first A-listers in a way? Because it was you also that needs to be changed, not necessarily just them.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the tuition we need to pay.
Was it painful?
It's painful because it's lengthy, but on the other side, I think we pretty much, at the very beginning, we thought we understood this, we understand this, but it turned out that it's longer than we thought. We thought, okay, maybe we spend a year, half a year to figure it out, but it turned out we spent almost 3 years.
So then you went to the next round to look for the Hollywood talents to help you guys.
Well, it's several rounds. It's not just
Oh my God.
2 rounds, it's several rounds, right? So that's one side. And the other side is you have to be very careful to sign the contract with these, whether it's writers or directors, because there are a lot of rules in Hollywood, or especially the rules for the animation movie industry is quite different than what's in China. So for example, if you have a writer, you sign the contract, later on, if you try to change another writer, it's not easy. The new writer has to change the original content by at least 1/3. Who's going to define whether it's 1/3, less than 1/3, or greater than 1/3? That's tough, right? There's only one court in the universal city, and only one judge can do this. Everyone actually recognizes his, ruling.
Judgment.
His judgment. Yeah, everyone would listen and actually think his judgment is right. So that's actually a industry rule. Right?
Did you make a few mistakes?
We luckily we didn't make any big mistakes, so we didn't run into trouble that we couldn't change a writer or something. And the way also how we're going to sign the contract. The good side of it actually, there's not a lot of things that under the table. So once we see, for example, like salaries or these things, they're very transparent. So we could actually look at it and this industry standard.
Right.
So on one side, I would say there are a lot of things we need to learn, but on the other side, it's pretty transparent.
So there's one thing that has been quite attracting attention. That is whether this movie, Tibetan Rock Dog, has been having equal opportunity screened in major theaters across China.
Today, what I saw in the last couple of days, the quality of the movie is now proportional to the number of screenings. Our investment is for the production of this movie, but the release and distribution, there are a lot of, I would say, the tricks, right, in this whole process, right? And if you look at the box office, it's not determined by the quality of the movie, by how you're gonna make sure how many theaters will have your movie on the screen. Sometimes, of course, it's because of the financial return for these managers of those theaters, right? But sometimes also there are a lot of things under the table. That's what I saw and what I heard, right? Which I think sacrifice some of the interest of the audience, because they want to see the high quality movie. So of course, I want this whole thing to be more transparent.
Will it be better, you think, in the near future?
I don't think for each individual movie you can change the whole industry, but I think the environment needs to be better, and a lot of basically the industry and the government need to do something together.
It sounds like you really want to have some rock and roll spirit.
That's true.